Although, ladies and gentlemen, no, this isn't the start of my midlife crisis. It is indeed Rue the World by Boards of Canada on my iPod Classic, which is somehow not broken and still going, even though it has broken many times in the past. It just somehow comes back to life and works again. What the flying fuck. Speaking of what the flying fuck, as everybody knows, people haven't had haircuts in, most countries. Obviously, a lot of people probably taking the clippers to the head. I don't have a pair of clippers. I'm too tight to pay for a pair. So, as of this moment in time, up until next week, I have got hair, but of course I'm going bald, so it's leaving me in a state where it's just looking absolutely tragic. And I'm not a very vain person, but at the same time, I know when I look absolutely downright ridiculous, and I do at this moment in time. I've been having a number 2 haircut for the last 5 or 6 years since I've been going bald, and now this time I've just said, what a perfect time to just get rid of it all. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to go for haircuts that are perhaps shorter than they usually go for when they can get their haircut on the 4th of July over here in the UK. But my hair at the moment, man, honestly, it is a state. It's sticking up at the back, it's bald here in the middle, and I've got no fringe, obviously. Now, next week, I'm going to be nearly bald, and, bald pride. But yeah, there's nothing worse than trying to keep your hair when you're losing it. You just gotta go with the flow, and I think I look a lot better like that anyway. But my head's cold as well, so that's why I'm wearing this. I realise how ridiculous I look, but I don't give a fuck. At least I'm wearing a Black Sabbath t-shirt, so at least I look cool in that regard. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a gaming pickups video, don't you jolly well know. It's the first in absolutely ages, because I've not been able to make videos during the whole lockdown. I have recorded a whole bunch. I've got 2 new Let's Plays ready to go. I'm currently, as I record this, in the midst of uploading my first playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2. And I also have a review of that very controversial game as well. Pickups video to come today. We'll have a vinyl pickups video probably in a few months, because I haven't picked up many vinyls in the last 3 or 4 months or so since my last pickups video. Vinyls were last year. Jesus, I'm losing time. But yeah, today we've got so many games to talk about. So let's begin. First and foremost, and this is going back all the way to November of last year, 2019, we've got Football Manager Touch 2020, and I have played Football Manager 2020 Touch. That's the classic streamlined version of the game, more than any other Football Manager since 2013, maybe 16. And I have to say that it was pretty good fun. I enjoyed it, but the same issue for me with Football Manager year in, year out is the fact that I want the streamlined version of the game, yet it was taking me over 40 hours of gameplay to just do one season. It's streamlined, but I micromanage things, and I bet that the mobile version is more like Championship Manager or 1 or 2, and I'm just not getting the right balance, and that's the thing. They've got a streamlined version of the game that year in, year out, they add stuff to. Anyway, by the time I was done, I think I put, 200-300 hours of gameplay in. Obviously, I was stuck in the house all the time, and that game, non-stop, I played it for about 2 months. I recently uninstalled it. I might go back to it. I don't mind playing the older versions, but it was a good balance. Football Manager Touch 2020. The game looks ugly as hell. The purple skin. Don't know what the devs were thinking of. But no Football Manager will ever touch 2012 for me. That was the best. That was the last great one. But, with the 20th anniversary of Championship Manager 1 or 2, let's see if they can bring anything to the table with 2021. I'll never get into those games quite as much as I did when I was younger, but it got me through some boring times within the last 6 months or so, I'll tell you that much. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, is, I feel like I should have spoken about this because it's so long since I purchased it. It's just the case that I've not made a pickups video in so long, but it's A Plague Tale: Innocence. And this game was a heck of a lot of fun. It was a really well-made game, a little bit more in regards to a combat system than I thought there would be in an upgrade system. But it's heavily based on stealth, and it's kind of like a non-AAA Last of Us 1 without the gunplay. and you play a French, I'm guessing, teenager called Amicia. Quite like that name, actually. And her brother Hugo, who becomes kind of the Rat King. I don't want to give away the story too much, but it's all about rats. Plague Tale, as the title suggests. And I had a lot of fun with it. A linear, story-based game. Holy shit, I think I paid about 18 quid for it. It's probably cheaper now with the summer sales going on, or if they haven't already finished. But yeah, well recommended. 8 out of 10. Music, gameplay, graphics, really nice. And I think it took me about 12 hours to complete. Probably take a lot of other people 8 to 10 because they'll go faster. Not much in terms of replayability. It's got a good achievements trophy list, but I enjoyed it, and apparently there is going to be a sequel. A few annoying set pieces here and there, but overall I had a lot of fun. Comes recommended. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, one I'm going to gloss over really quickly. I bought this again just so I could duplicate the achievements on my Xbox because I'm an achievement whore, and it is Doom 3. And this isn't the BFG edition, it's an Xbox One version, apparently with better graphics than the HD version. Bit confused by that, but I don't care. It's Doom 3. I really like that game because it's not a survival horror game, but it's got narrow corridors, and it's more of a survival feel than the other Doom games. I really enjoyed that when I played it for the first time about 5 years ago. This comes with the DLCs included, which are really good, and yeah, I'll have a blast playing that. And those are all, well, I think we've still got a few digital games. I've got 2 sides of the post-it note. I've got that many games here, ladies and gentlemen. But we've got a physical game now, and with the sequel coming up, there was a bit of a controversy. There was a sexual harassment allegation. There are always allegations these days. There's so many of them. I don't know if it's the main guy at this studio, but it was somebody. Who gives a fuck anyway? This is a video game. It's Dying Light, the following. This is the enhanced edition. You get Be a Zombie, Ultimate Survival Bundle, the Borzak Horde, and Dying Light, the following. And this game made me rage more than any other game has in quite a while. Quite a naturally difficult game. I played it on normal difficulty. But this is from the makers of Dead Island. I detested that game. So when I saw better reviews on this, because of my experience with Dead Island, I still had my doubts. I watched a bit of gameplay. I decided to purchase it. It's still £20 despite being 5 years old, this game. Obviously, this isn't the original game. This is the enhanced edition. But overall, I have to say that I had a solid experience with it. It's not going to become one of my favourite games of all time, but beyond the frustration, there was also a lot of fun. And there's a lot of looting in this game. Jesus H. Christ. You start very, very underpowered, and by the end of the game, you're not overpowered, but you've got a lot of different things to play with, a lot of different weapons. But it's mainly melee. My God, you have to change your weapon all the time. I don't usually cope very well with melee. You can get guns, but the way that this game works, as soon as you use guns, the game is just going to bring down zombies on you. There are certain specialised zombies on this game as well, which chase you, and they are so annoying. But there are a few perks, as far as I can remember, where if you're above them, you can just stomp on the head and immediately kill them. I've still not played the DLC to this game. I should get to that before the second game comes out. I will probably get the second game, but it's the kind of thing that if it does well, gets good reviews, etc., I might get it down the line, but I won't pay a full price. But nevertheless, I've heard so much about this down the years, and I'm glad I finally got it. Just need to play the DLC. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, a digital-only game. A digital-only game which initially was on the PC and Nintendo Switch, came to the Xbox One, and is now actually on the PS4. Also, it is a 2D Max Payne, if you ask me. My friend Pedro. But of course, Max never had a sentient banana as his best friend. Quite simply unbelievable. A ridiculous story. Absolutely fantastic music, not quite Hotline Miami level of quality of music, but great music nevertheless, and just an absolute blast to play. You get dual handguns, one handgun, dual Uzis, a shotgun, a sniper. You can have a move where you twirl around and avoid the bullets. You can slow down time just like Max Payne, and it's just a complete and utter gunfest. Shoot 'em up. And there's some puzzles based on the physics as well and shooting to make progress. A few bizarre dreamlike world levels. And a few levels as well where the game kind of loses itself and becomes frustrating. But I have to say overall, My Friend Pedro was a good experience. I think I paid, was it £16 for it? It's the way it works these days. If a game used to be $12.99 or whatever it was back in the day on Xbox Live Market Store, then you can be guaranteed these days it'll be about 20-25 quid. Even I went to buy Tame Impala's new album, or last album, The Slow Rush, and MP3 downloads always used to be £7.50. Now they're £10.29. It's unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. And next up is a most unbelievable video game. A game which all the journalists said outright was better than its previous game in the series, its predecessor. But I came out of it thinking certain parts were better and certain parts were worse. Mick Gordon has left us. We're now living in a post-Mick Gordon world. No, he's not died. He's just left the Doom franchise. That was a controversy a few months ago, if you saw it, ladies and gentlemen. And this is Doom Eternal, pre-order, and this game was interesting. They have definitely moved on the series from Doom 2016. This game is a lot brighter, it's a lot more arcadey. Needless to say, it's still ridiculously violent, ridiculously fast-paced. The music is awesome. There's a few head-banging tracks on here, to be sure. Weapons, they made some great additions. The super shotgun with a meat hook, they bring them to you. And also the flame belch, where you set them on fire, kill them, and then you get armor back. Some absolutely fantastic additions in this game, but also some real annoyances, some new enemies. That one, I can't remember what he's called. Isn't the Marauder, the guy with the dog and the axe? One of the most broken, retarded, stupid things I've ever seen in a video game, and I wanted to throw the controller out the window. I only played Doom Eternal on normal, and my lord, I wouldn't want to play it on a harder difficulty. They're naturally tough games like Dying Light and Doom Eternal. I play them on normal difficulty. I get a good enough challenge. I've always said it, but I'm going to say it again. The problem for me with modern games isn't that games are too easy, it's just that there aren't enough great games. I still get challenges these days, but I'm a pretty average gamer playing as a console scrub with a 25 FPS experience. But yeah, Doom Eternal, you get a hub as well, you get better weapons, the game looks nicer if you so want it to be like that. Very arcade, and you even get a bit of Doom Guy lore. You definitely get more lore, and I was surprised as people who love the Doom lore. If you just think it's decapitating aliens and all that kind of shit, then it actually isn't. They go deep into the lore. I mean, it's obviously ridiculous, but whatever game I play, I always read the text logs, and I see other people not doing so. It just allows you to get into that world a bit better, and certain games, I understand what I'm reading more so than others. When it's a game like this, where it's not set in reality at all, I kind of get taken out of the experience a bit. It's a bit ridiculous, and I struggle to concentrate. If it's something like an apocalypse kind of game, post-apocalypse, but it's on Earth, then I'm more with it. I don't know, it's just my style. It's what I prefer. But Doom Eternal, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. There were aspects of Doom 2016 which were taken out, which I wish weren't. I think that they took risks with Doom Eternal. I'm sure it paid off in terms of the sales, sold like hotcakes. I think it did very well for them, but there were quite a lot of people, big streamers and big internet personalities, who said it was a little bit too much for them. The game is non-stop. The pacing is definitely quicker than Doom 2016. Sometimes it can get a little too much, in my opinion. Solid game though, nevertheless. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, a game that I played and then a game that I uninstalled from my PS4. This is a digital pickup, by the way, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to go back to it, but I don't know right now. I had to uninstall this game because I installed another game on PS4 which was so big it forced me to uninstall 4 or 5 games on the console. You'll see it soon. But it was Shadow of the Colossus, the first game in question, and this is a PS4 remake of the original PS2 game. kind of interesting when I think about it that they'd actually remake a game like this. I don't mean to be disrespectful to people who love the original, but it's just the case that it's obviously it's a very unique game. It's not open world. You do get a waypoint. You point your sword in the air and it shows you where to go. You ride on this horse and quite simply you fight these colossuses. Or colossi is that? I don't know. But what I do know is that the gameplay is insanely clunky, and I spent the first 2 boss battles not really knowing what the hell to do, and I don't know what to make of this game. I defeated the first 4. I believe there's about 14 or 16 altogether, so I've still got a heck of a lot to go. Is there going to be anything else to do in the game? I'm not sure. Needless to say, this is a Japanese game. And in an era where there are less Japanese games made than ever, I really want to embrace and appreciate something that is just absolutely, essentially very Japanese. But I'm not sure. The thing is, when it became free on the PS4, the Resident Evil 3 remake came out, and then I ended up playing that. And as such, I haven't gone back to Shadow of the Colossus, and then I had to uninstall it. The thing is, if I reinstall it, it'll remember my saved game. I won't have that deleted. But I don't know if I want to go back to it. It's an experience, but it's a bit of a polarising one just because of how different the game truly is. But next up, ladies and gentlemen, I just referenced it. It's hard to believe that this, the original, is my favourite game of all time. And of course, the Resident Evil series is my favourite gaming series of all time. But for me, modern Capcom have become absolute masters of the 7 out of 10 game. There's fun to be had, but it's just not at the level it should be. And I was so surprised seeing quite a few internet personalities. You know, there's a lot of Twitch streamers and YouTube gamers that I know of that I don't actually follow. One of them is Maximilian, I can't remember what his name is, Maximilian something. And he specialises in fighting games mostly. But he obviously grew up with the Resident Evil series. It's very dear to him. And I remember him criticising the Resident Evil 3 remake like crazy. But he absolutely adores the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I just don't get how you can think Resident Evil 2 remakes is a masterpiece and this isn't. Anyone doesn't know, just coming across my channel for the first time, the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes I don't think are amazing by any stretch of the imagination. Capcom, I wouldn't say they played it safe, but they changed a lot that was in those initial games. And a lot of the fans of the Resident Evil series don't like these remakes. Yet and still, they seem to have done pretty well for Capcom. Seems, to me at least, that a lot of people who love Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake are a lot of people who never played the originals. Now, I don't get me wrong, there will be people out there who played the old school games who love these as well. I like them, I think they're replayable, but the gameplay really turns me off. And with Resident Evil 3 Remake, I heard all this talk about, oh, there's going to be more action. There's going to be more action. It's more of an action game, Resident Evil 3. And I was just like, yeah, but there's more puzzles in Resident Evil 3. It's a harder game than Resident Evil 2 Original. And it's a longer game than Resident Evil 2 Original. Yet there's no puzzles in this game, next to none, compared to Resident Evil 2 Remake, and this game is a lot shorter. And for me, I would say that Capcom cut corners, as we can see by them putting together Resident Evil Resistance, which I was never interested in, I never played it, and I would never like it, it's not my bag, and for me, they use Resident Evil Resistance as means to sell Resident Evil 3. To be fair, I might be wrong here, but I don't think there's any microtransactions within Resistance. It'd be really interesting to see how many people are actually playing online on Resistance, but it doesn't seem to me to have been a resounding success. I think they didn't do this game justice. It's the best classic Resident Evil game for me. I've always preferred classic Resi 3 to classic Resi 2, and they cut corners, no puzzles, and the gameplay is a little bit more fun. The dodge was always the worst part for me of the classic Resi 3 game, and it's annoying on this game. Carlos is pretty cool. Jill, she's, you know what it's like these days, guys. She's swearing every second. She's a strong, independent woman. It's got to be the case, as we know these days. A bit vulgar. It wasn't like that back in the day. It doesn't need to be like that in 2020. I don't think so. And Nemesis, well, You know how back in the day you could actually fight him? Of course you can't fight him in a modern Capcom game. If you throw a grenade at his feet, he will immediately drop an item. But shooting him is just absolutely pointless. The gameplay is a little bit better. The zombies are a little bit easier to shoot. The shotgun actually has them physics of falling backwards. I could not believe it. And they are not quite as tanky with the headshots, and you know when they're dead. Like Resident Evil 2 Remake was just insane with the headshots. What on earth were Capcom thinking of? But yeah, what the future has to hold for the Resident Evil series, apparently there's going to be a Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I still think is going to be one of the biggest letdowns, if not the biggest letdown in gaming history. Maybe one day I'll make a video and explaining why I think that's the case, but I can't be arsed right now. But Resident Evil 8, we've obviously seen the trailer for it, and the frame rate in that trailer, wow, it was running at 12 FPS, wasn't it? It was absolutely awful. But I cottoned on to it being Resi, I could tell it was, and there's definitely some Resident Evil 4 influences in that trailer. And I got to say, they nailed the trailer. It looks good, but it's in first person. It's the same guy who we played as in Resident Evil 7. I enjoyed my first Resident Evil 7 playthrough. There's a short video that I did years ago reacting to the jump scares in my first playthrough of the game back in January 2017. But I went back to play it. I did it all collectibles playthrough first. Play the DLCs when they came out. None of the DLCs were good. There were way too many of them as well, in my opinion. And as time goes by, I don't want to go back to Resident Evil 7. I don't enjoy playing Resident Evil 7. And Resident Evil 8, I feel, is just going to be more of the same. We've got werewolves now as new enemies, instead of those Las Plagas kind of enemies, the ones that, I don't know, the mold. They were boring as hell. Modern Capcom, you've got it all to prove. But who knows, they might prove me wrong. But what I will say is it's only for the PS5 and the next Xbox, the Xbox Series 1X, whatever it's called. And it's not going to be enough to convince me. It is not going to be enough. I'm not going to be buying the next generation of consoles just for Resident Evil 8. And the only game recently at the PlayStation conference that I was excited at was the new Abe's Odyssey game, Abe's Exodus, whatever. That looked sick. I never played New and Tasty. I need to get onto that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Resident Evil 3 Remake, another solid 7 out of 10 from our friends at Capcom. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, is a game that you will see more of very soon. Don't want to give it away, but it is another digital pickup, none other than Streets of Rage 4. 26 years in the making, 26 years after Streets of Rage 3, we get Streets of Rage 4, and overall, I think they did a pretty good job. In an era of remakes and remasters, this is, of course, a brand new game from the ground up, but taking humongous inspiration, especially from the first two Streets of Rage games, and especially from the second. I think Streets of Rage 4, I've played it a heck of a lot, is the second best game in the series. I think it's better than 3 and 1. Still not at the level of 2, though. That game is near perfection. And there's the right balance for me of new and old. Some people complain that there weren't enough new things to, add in the game, but they were wanting to give people who love those games another classic Streets of Rage game with new additions here and there. I think they got the balance right. The music is pretty solid, but not as good as the old soundtracks were. New enemies, new melee weapons. You can choose the different kind of foods you pick up, not just turkeys and apples now, but different small health items and the bigger health items. Every character has got a star move where they take off loads of health of the boss. You should only use them when you play the boss, really. All characters have got good skill sets as well. There are 2 new characters, Floyd and Cherry, and Adam, Blaze, and Axel are all back in the midst as well. And then you can play as nearly every single Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 character. There's a lot of fan service here. You can even play with the old soundtracks. The game looks beautiful. I wasn't that keen on the art style at the beginning, but I came around, and I have to say it's a solid 8 out of 10 experience. There's some frustrations, especially in the second half of the game, but when you consider that there's co-op, playing a line of people, there's boss rush, there's versus mode as well, where you can just fight as another person. There's a lot of replayability there, and the achievements list is great as well. And yeah, like I say, stay tuned. more Streets of Rage 4 to come soon, ladies and gentlemen. But 2 more games to show off. The last one I'm not going to be speaking much of because I'm going to be doing a video just for it, and it's going to be so in-depth and so much of a ramble that it's going to be double the length of this pickups video, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo, you know I'm serious. But the next game is an absolute classic, a set of classics. It's the Splinter Cell HD Trilogy. A HD Trilogy which for some annoying reason isn't on the Xbox, because if it was on the Xbox 360, I'd be able to play it on my Xbox One. However, I had to play and dust off the old PS3 for this. I never played the HD collection back in the day, but on the PS2 I did play all these. And with the classic Splinter Cell games, which I much, much prefer to the newer games, 1 and 2 I'd played and completed a couple of times before, but Chaos Theory I'd only ever done the first 2 levels, and I remember back in high school lending it to a friend of mine, and typically I never got that fucking game back, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I recently, within the last 2 months, completed Splinter Cell and Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. You forget with these games how much trial and error is in them, and you forget how frustrating they can be, how clunky they are, and just how damn well terrible the shooting is. But when all is said and done, for the atmosphere and just the feel of being like a special agent, these games had something really special. And here on the back it says Chaos Theory really makes you feel like a spy. The first 2 games do as well, just hiding bodies in the corner, and I just really like that balance of one mission you can't kill anyone, the next one you can just go absolutely berserk and kill everything. Some missions you get 3 alarms and it's over. And these games you can scum save as well, so if something difficult's coming up, save the game, make a mistake, reload that save. A lot of trial and error, certainly in this day and age. I wouldn't expect the kiddies to enjoy this one. It does require patience, but it's crazy, you know. I remember I completed these twice before, years ago when they came out. 15 years, because Splinter Cell 1, 2003, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, 2004, and I wouldn't say I remember them like the back of my hand, but Jesus Christ, I remembered a lot of these games. It's so strange how you can have over a decade not playing a game and then you remember them. Wow, video games, that's how you know they're just something special, man, when you have a good experience at least with them. I still need to complete Chaos Theory though, because I played parts of the second level and then a new game came out and I've actually not gone back to it, but I really want to, because that will be an actual blind playthrough. I do remember within the 3rd level the hacking mechanic came into effect with Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, and I could not for the life of me wrap my fucking head around it. I need to have a look online and see how to do it. But next game, ladies and gentlemen, I said there was only 1, there's actually 2, and I waited, and I've waited. So it's like that old Guinness advert, and he waits, that's what he does. Remember that one? Jesus Christ. I've waited over a year for this game to come down in price on the PlayStation Store because I was being stubborn and I didn't want to overpay, because it's just exactly, in my opinion, the kind of game where £16 is totally not worth it, but £8 totally is. So, on the summer sales a few days ago, or last week I should say, just under a week, £8, 50% off, I made the purchase finally. It is none other than Metal Slug Anthology. Metal Slug, if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, they are all 2D run and gun kind of games where you're scrolling from left to right mainly, sometimes from the top to bottom or vice versa, and you are just shooting everything in sight. You're a military man. You're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're Sylvester Stallone. It is so cheesy, great music, pardon me, and there's tanks, there's helicopters, there's bad guys, and you're just shooting everything in sight. It's as simple as that. You also get grenades. You get 10 grenades, and then I think they only restock when you die. And you can pick up shotguns, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, heavy machine guns, and then you've got the default pistol. There's bosses, and yeah, they're kind of like a run and gun Streets of Rage, not at the same quality. These were only on the Neo Geo back in the day though. The first game was released in 1996, but it's bizarre because I don't really know much about the Neo Geo console, but there's been 6 Metal Slug games altogether, not about 7 actually, and yet even in the late 90s and 2000s they were still made with this 2D perspective. I think the Neo Geo might only be Japanese, and when you see a game like this, it makes sense. But if you really like the sound of this game and you've never seen it before, you've got a PlayStation 4, I would highly recommend buying it. It is 20th of June today, Sunday 20th of June, and for the next 3 or 4 days I think it's only £8. Now, I completed the first game, I had fun, but I can definitely see the game's shortcomings as well. There's 5 more games to play. I think I'm just going to play 1 a week. It took me about 2 hours to complete, and then I'll probably install it. I don't think it'll be a game I'll go back to again, but I'm really glad that I purchased it, but I'm also glad I waited for the price to come down, because there's not that much replayability. I had a look online, and it looks like Metal Slug 2 and 3 were the best in the series overall, and I've also got to say that I'm playing with unlimited continues. Now, that might sound like it's point-blank cheating, but guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The game is balls freaking hard. There's things all over the screen. You die every 10 seconds. Even if you're good at the game, you will die. And you can choose to have limited lives, but I'm not doing so. You've also got to rescue these prisoners that all look like Jesus. Seriously, it is Japanese as it comes. It's madness. But Metal Slug Anthology, I'm glad I picked it up at the reduced price. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, a game that I'm not going to be speaking more than 30 seconds of, because like I say, within the next 7 days, I am going to be doing an extensive review for what it's worth. None of my videos on here get any views anymore, but I want to do this because I'm passionate, and I was very passionate about the first game. It's a shitstorm, a complete shitstorm, and if you know and you've kept up with the story of this game, you'll know why. Developers criticising the gamers, the developers bringing politics into the equation, politics of a kind. And man, I don't know where to begin. I'm going to have to do, for once, bullet points on a spreadsheet or some shit, or a document, because I want to be a little bit more concise and less all over the place. But yeah, Last of Us Part 2, I've completed it already. A review to come. I did record the whole of my Let's Play for this, but I decided instead I was just going to do what I've currently done. Right now I've uploaded 4 parts, and there's 1 more part to come of all the encounters, basically every fight that's in the game and what happened in my first hard difficulty playthrough of it. I, just so you know, was spoiled before the game came out, and as such, it did taint the game. I remember Core Carnage, one of my favourite YouTubers and Twitch streamers, saying that they can ruin the game for you, but they can't take the journey away from you. And he's right, but it definitely soured the experience, and what happens in the game definitely sours the experience as well. The game's gameplay is better, but it's just too freaking long. But anyway, Last of Us 2, if you care, there is an extensive review coming later this week. But this has been a long, rambling pickups video, ladies and gentlemen. It had to be. I've not done one in possibly over 6 months. The next one probably won't be that long. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. No, it's not coming off. Fuck off.